welcome to the Olympic Hockey Show brought to you by the Purple Rain Podcast. So, it is now time to get these report cards well and truly underway. Okay, so we do this on the main show for all the PHR teams, where we look back on their performance of the season, just talk about it in general. So that's what we're going to do over the next 10 episodes for all of the nations that competed in La Cortina. Okay, so before the same principle is we'll go through their performance in the tournament, just talk about it in general, and so we're going to go in reverse order of the final ranking. So we'll start with the team that came 10th, then we'll go 9th, and so forth, so to reach the team of gold. Okay, so we're going to okay, so that's how it's going to work. We're going to go from the final rankings in reverse order. So this time, it's going to be about the team that came 10th overall in the rankings, which was La France. Okay, so remember, France made their official debut in the Olympics for the women's side this year. Remember, they originally weren't supposed to be there. They were basically a last-minute replacement for those evil Russians. So France technically wasn't supposed to be here, and yet they made the most of their time there. So if you look at their record overall, across their 4 games, 0 wins, 0 OT wins, 1 OT loss, and 3 regulation losses. That gives them a total of just 1 point in the tournament. They only managed to score 4 goals. That's the lowest in the tournament, and they conceded 13 goals. That's a goal differential of -9. But interestingly, it's not the biggest goals conceded in the tournament. We'll get onto that a little bit later on in these recaps. So while France did badly in the group stages, they didn't actually have some of the bad goal differential. That goal differential was actually not too bad, -9. In fact, some other teams have got the same as well. So yeah, so I went into La Cortina for France thinking, just use this as a learning curve. Okay, remember, you weren't even supposed to be there in the first place. You're going to be hosting the games in 4 years' time. We believe the hockey is taking place in Lyon. We believe it's taking place in Lyon, but we're just going to check that, and when we do, we'll report that back to you guys. Okay, so we're just going to double check that, and then we'll do an episode on that soon. Okay. So I was like, just use it as a learning curve for experience. But of course, they weren't thinking that, were they? France, you remember? France said their goal was to make quarterfinals, and Pluto, of course, as you remember, just laughed at that. He laughed at that because he felt, surely for Olympian, your goal is to be in the medal rounds. Okay, so that's what. So he wasn't laughing and saying, "Ha ha, you're not going to make the quarters." He's laughing and saying, "Really? That is your that's your goal, just to get quarters? Do you want to go further than that?" So it'll be interesting in 2030 to see what the goal is going to be when they host the damn thing, because Italy showed you can do well as the host nation. You can do well. But what I found interesting for France was how you look back at their games, those 4 games, and only the game against Sweden were they not competitive. Okay. Only the Sweden game were France not firing on all cylinders. Because with their other 3 games, so against Japan, Italy, and Germany, they kept those games very, very tight. They kept those games very well closely fought. And they had every opportunity, I thought, in those games to take points off their opponents. Now, while that still would not have helped France advance, it would have made things then very, very tricky for their opponents. Okay? And I just feel with France, I'm seeing some signs here. I'm seeing some signs of really good promise. You know, I mean, could you imagine if the Italy game, if that stayed deadlock, then that would have been gone at OT. Would Italy still there got all the points they need to then advance if the rest of the played the way it did? So that was because that was a really tough game. Obviously, Italy, you know, they in the third period, you know, ran away with it, and once they did, the France couldn't get a response back. But very well done for France to go head to head with the hosts for quite what you did. Yeah, but Japan was the heartbreaker because you know that looked like a game that France was maybe going to be able to get something out of it. You know, like at the very least go tie and then maybe get a point out of that. Because Japan were not playing well in the tournament as a whole. And I think this game against France showed those warning signs were there regarding Japan. Not that we saw it until the last day of the group game stages. And all the games in the groups being played. But yeah, that was such a heartbreak for France. It was a late goal that they gave up to the Japanese. That was a real heartbreaker for them. Because they were playing so on that game, and they could have maybe got something out of that game, but alas. So, yeah, 4 goals. It's not really enough. It's not really a good showing. In fact, that is the lowest scored by any team in the tournament. Although, what's interesting is some of the teams that did qualify got less goals scored than that. So, but we'll come back to those teams later on in their talk in these recaps, okay? In these podcasts, sorry, these podcasts. We'll come to that. We get to the particular teams, but obviously because I've got all the rankings on my phone, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, ooh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, so 4 goals, not enough. But you did play in some very, very, very tight games. So I can understand why France's goal tally is not as high as it probably should be, because you know, they really just struggled against a lot of really high quality teams, and that's no fault of theirs. It's just, you know, the way the competition was. They were in Group B. They came as a last minute substitute. The other teams already their way in there. They were familiar with some of the other teams. Particularly, you know, as Japan, Germany, Sweden, literally this time last year played in a group in the World Championships together, so they know each other really well. Yeah. But I think what's really surprising is how France, in February, put on a bit of a poor showing for themselves in their first Olympic competition. Fast forward 2 months later, so in April, when we have the Division 1A tournament for the World Championships, and they go there and they win it outright and earn themselves promotion to the top tier. Who would have seen that coming? And Italy was also in Division 1A, so Italy was also in that tournament. So they had a chance as well as maybe get to the top tier as well, which would have been really good given how Eric Bichat's got those Quebec connections. Oh! Done it! But yeah, so France, literally, wow, they've been on a roller coaster these last few months. You know, you literally come dead last in the rankings in the Olympics. Then you literally a few weeks later, like 5-6 weeks later, you literally then win this tournament to get yourself promotion. So we're going to be seeing France in Quebec next year for the World Championships in the top division. Who would have seen that coming? Who would have seen that coming, especially after their performance in Milano Cortina? No chance. Who would have seen, especially as Hungary, who were the host nation, were very determined to get back in the top tier, because I think Hungary felt they still had a lot to prove after being relegated last year. So I think Hungary felt they had a lot to prove there, but no, they fell short. Hungary, they fell short, and France just wow. So I think what I'm taking away from La Cortina was we didn't get to see the full story. We didn't really get to see France at their best. So I think what's exciting that they've now won promotion to the top tier in the World Championships next year is we're going to have another opportunity to see what France is like playing with the big dogs. So teams like Sweden, like Germany, and potentially Canada or the US. Okay? Because depending on where France is going to get placed, they're going to be in a group with at least one of those two. Could be us, could be Canada, who knows, but we will have to wait to see. We'll have to see how these World Championships play out in November. Yeah, and I think that's really exciting, because I think for France, as we get closer towards 2030, we need to see how this nation can cope when you are playing with some of the best teams in the world. Can you cope with them? So, I'm really excited. So even though I did not see it coming, I'm so excited to see that France is going to be on that world stage in Quebec next year. It gives us an opportunity to see how they fare. And of course, with the new format, who knows? They might still stay there after next year. Who knows? Who knows? Because obviously we now have the relegation playoff game, which will happen between the team that finishes last in Group A, the team that finishes last in Group B. Winner stays, the loser goes. That's how it works. So if any of you think with France next year, if you think that's an easy relegation, no, don't put money on it. Don't put money on it. Don't put money on it. Don't put money on it, because they might surprise us. But yeah, honestly, I did not see that. If you go and check the episodes we did on the Division 1A tournament that me and Lady did back in the spring, if you go and check those out, the tone of our voices, the shock on our faces, pretty much said it all. Literally, the shock on our faces of France, because we didn't see that coming. And Lady is a Frenchman. She's one of my French expats from DRP over many years. So even she did not see her home nation literally doing that. So yeah, so I kind of thought with France we did not get to see the full side of the story. I thought with France there's so much promise there. There was so much potential, but unfortunately we just couldn't get to see it. But for me, I think France's standout game was Germany. Because Germany, you could that game think Germany should be able to win that one very easily. Maybe do like a multi-goal lead like Sweden was able to do to them, you know. And if Germany had won that game outright, then that would have been their tickets to the quarters booked. They wouldn't need to worry about what happened in their game against Italy the next day. Job done. And Italy would just have that nervous wait to see if Sweden could beat Japan to then confirm their spot. Okay. But they did. And Germany, I remember, did have that 1-0 lead. Germany, I think, did lead first. And then France tied it quite late. It was like, oh, wow. Where's this going? Where's this going? So the fact that France managed to take it beyond regulation, brilliant. Well done them. But obviously, Germany ended up managing there. It was like they managed to buy the rest of their medal back and obviously get the win. But wow. Could you imagine if France had got that win? Either it was regulation or OT. Could you imagine they got that? Over Germany, of all teams. Over Germany? And that probably would have changed things, because if they had got that win over Germany, then Germany would have only got 1 point. France would have got 2, which made it a lot more better for them. But if things instead stayed the same, then maybe Italy might have got 2nd place. I don't know. I don't know. It's all what ifs, isn't it? But yeah, so I kind of felt that was France's best game, because they were able to really push their opponent to the brink. Same with Japan, but Japan have found a way to get the win, whereas Germany had to really work hard to get that win over France. I felt France, of all the opponents, I felt France created more problems for Germany than the other 3 teams in the group. That is kind of how I I feel like, so I think for me, that is going to be what I would see as France's best game. You guys might want to think differently. Great, let's do that. That's what we're here to do. We're here to basically do that. I can think one thing. You guys pick another. Let's have that. But it's going to be a lot of massive improvements for France going forward. Okay, there needs to be a lot of improvement from France going forward. You know, because we know they're going to be back on the Olympic stage in 2030. We know that they will be the host nation. They'll be doing it in Lyon. We know that. So for the next few years, what I need to see from France is massive improvements. Okay, I need to see that this team is going in the right direction, so they can put themselves in a really good position to then go against the best of the best in 4 years' time. Okay, because we know it can be a struggle for the host nations to do well. I think Italy gave the best host nation performance probably since Canada of 2010. So you've got to go back to my first Olympics. You've got to go back to that. That's the last best performance we had from the host nation. Because I know China did poorly in Beijing. South Korea didn't do too well in Pyeongchang. Don't get me started on Russia in Sochi. I don't remember what happened in Sochi. They might have got, but Canada obviously won it in 2010. So Italy card goes one of the best performances from a host nation in quite a while. So I think France, you could look at what Italy's done, because no one saw Italy go to the quarterfinals, and yet they did it. They managed it. They managed to find a way. Italy managed to find a way to get in the quarters. So that could be something that France could do. Okay? So I hope that France, you go away, you look at what happened in La Cortina, and you just learn from it. You know, learn from that experience. Learn from what you did in La Cortina, and then apply it going forward in these next couple of tours you're going to face. Because we will be seeing you in the top tier next year in Quebec for the Worlds. Hopefully you guys can stay there. If France can stay in the top tier, at least until we get to 2030, that would be really good. Because that would give them a lot of experience compared to being down in the lower divisions. Because with France being able to be in the top tier, it gives them the chance to play against teams that you very most likely will be seeing in Lyon in 4 years' time. So they can just hold out in the top tier to at least 2030. That would be really good for the nation. They can learn from that, and just, yeah. So I kind of felt we did not get the full story from France in La Cortina. I felt they could have done a lot better than they could have. And they showed it. They made, apart from Sweden, all the other games were very close at best. They could have got points off Italy. They so nearly did get points off Japan. And they did take points off Germany. Because Germany were on course to get a regulation win there in that game against France. Okay? Because they got regulation wins over Japan and Italy. And they had a regulation loss to Sweden. So they were close to making it 3 out of 3 regulation wins. They were close. They were close to making it 3 out of 4 in terms of regulation wins. Just couldn't do it. And I thought it was, when I heard the result afterwards, I thought that was really interesting that Germany was taken to overtime by France. Because you look at Germany, and France think, really? Shouldn't Germany have brought their backsides? Okay. But good on for France. They at least came away with at least 8 points, rather than it being a big fat 0, rather than it being a big duck egg. Okay? Small consolation there, guys. We at least got a point, you know? Because it is very hard in these tournaments, but teams like France to really try and do well. So the fact they managed to get at least something out of it, got on them. And hopefully you can just use this as a learning curve for the future, okay? Because France, we will be seeing you again in 2030. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Yeah, but honestly, wow. Can't believe they did that in Division 1A back in April. And it was only about, what, 5 or 6 weeks after La Cortina You know, it was just crazy. But yeah, but we will be seeing them in the top tier next year. We all go to Quebec for the Worlds in November 2027. And hopefully France can build on that. Hopefully France can use that to also build. I think between now and 2030 for France, it's all about building up experience, taking these opportunities, learn from them, build on them for the future, because this team could be going places. And they showed us in Budapest. They showed us in Budapest that they can go up against the best of the best and win. Okay, so they can do it. They can do it. You've just got to have that confidence. You've got to have that grit, that will, that determination, and they can succeed. So I'd say to France is just look at La Cortina this year. Just look at it as a learning curve. Look at it as a learning curve to build on going forward to 2030. We're definitely seeing the Worlds next year in the top tier. Hopefully you can build on that and just, you know, make the most of these opportunities that are coming away in the next few years just to build towards Lyon in 2030. Okay. So while they didn't perform that great in La Cortina, there definitely were signs of promise there. There were definitely some good showings there from France, and just building it going forward for the future. Okay, so that is going to conclude this report card for Team France. You did well, guys. Just, yeah. It was great for you guys to be, because obviously, you know, France, on the women, well, they had been to the Olympics before on the men's side. They hadn't yet gone to it on the women's side. So great to see a new nation get that opportunity to shine there. We saw that 4 years ago with Denmark in Beijing. But yeah. So I think France, you can go away from La Cortina looking at it as a learning experience, ready to host us all in 2030. And we're just looking forward to it. Yeah, so that's gonna be so that's gonna be all I have to say about Team France. So thanks so much for joining me as always. Until next time, ciao for now.